Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Bold, Make Waves podcast, a show bringing you inspiring stories of women who are growing and scaling their business. I'm your host, Laura Comark, a website and tech integration specialist who works with online business owners who love their work and not their website. Join me as we have incredible conversations about business, mindset, productivity, and of course, the website and tech behind the business. Let's go ahead and dive in to this week's episode. Hello and welcome to today's show. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura Comark. I'm a website and tech integration specialist who works with women who love their work and not their website. My guest today is known as the Queen of Evergreen. Brittany Long works with coaches, service providers, and course creators to create an automated as possible business for a regret-free life. Brittany, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can you just tell our listeners a little bit more about you and what you do and how you help people?
Absolutely. So when you read my bio, it talked about a regret-free life, and that's really where everything kind of started for me. I had a cancer scare a few years ago. I guess it was probably 5 or 6 years ago now, but it really shook my entire world. And so for a solid 2 weeks, I thought I'm dying because that's what they told me. And then I went to a specialist and they told me that they were wrong. The original person was wrong. I'm not in fact dying. And I didn't have cancer. It was just this huge roller coaster ride. And I'm so thankful that they were wrong, of course, but also so thankful that I had that experience to kind of have a wake up call of, time isn't guaranteed. We don't know how long we're going to be able to be here. So what do I want my life to look like moving forward? And that's really where everything kind of changed for me. And so with that mission, it's like the front of my mind, that's what I go into client relationships and work with, regular relationships with. So I'm always thinking, how can I live to the fullest extent possible while still setting my family up for financial success, while having an impact on my clients, my customers, while making an impact in my community? What does that look like? And so for me, that looks like setting up evergreen systems, whether that's email, whether that's finding ways to generate traffic or generate customers without always requiring me being on all the time. And I do the same thing for my clients.
Oh, I love that so much. That's such a huge value for me, is having a simplified business and a simplified back end of our business and having as much automated as possible. So I love that you do that. And I love that that's such a huge value for you as well. I think that's something that I feel like, especially when I first was starting in the online space, it was just hustle, hustle, hustle. Right. And now there's more of this anti-hustle culture, which I am all for. I don't want to hustle. Mm-hmm. I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy time with my husband and my children and my dog. That's more important to me.
Someone shared a picture of the back of a book, and I wish I could remember what the name of the book was, but basically the author was saying, what if the point of life isn't to crush it, but to savor it? And that sentence just really impacted me because at the time I was like, okay, I need to work a little longer. I need to work a little harder. Just kind of getting back into that mentality of that hustle mode, which is something I usually don't have anymore. But every once in a while, especially during Black Friday or something like that, where it feels like there's this momentum and push by everyone and everything around you to sell more, do more, all of that. And so I kind of got back into that mindset, and I didn't want to be there. But reading that sentence, I was like, oh my gosh, what would it look like to savor my life? Knowing that, I'm not promised tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I would love for us to talk. We kind of had talked a little beforehand. There's some new technology that's kind of really been taking over the news stream, the social media feeds, and that's artificial intelligence, so AI. And so you and I had originally talked about you were going to come on because you've been really kind of digging into that. So I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about what all this is and kind of what it means from your perspective.
Absolutely. So artificial intelligence is using bots essentially to create answers to questions you might have, to help you create content. I use it mostly for creating content, for generating ideas. A few things that you can do with it, for example, that I've done today, in fact, is generating some ideas about blog posts, writing the blog post, and then I edit the blog post, or I have someone on my team edit it, And then adding in images, I can have it generate images for me. I have it create social posts for me from the blog posts. I have it turn those into actual social posts, not just like the text, but also the social posts as well, and bulk create that. Create scripts for TikToks, YouTube videos, etc. Post social posts from that. Essentially, it's a way to, it's almost like hiring somebody extra without having to actually hire someone extra. And I know that can sound scary because it's like, oh my gosh, will this take our jobs and stuff like that? But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's good to lean into AI because I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon or ever. It really does feel like this is something that has completely or will completely shift the fabric of our society. And so for me, I think it's better to lean into that and see how to utilize it. And when I map out how I can utilize it, I see that it can help me with traffic. It can help me with sales. It can help me with customer support. And that frees me up to go deeper on actually helping my clients get the results they want. It helps me go deeper with my family. It helps me look at passion projects and those things that light you up that most people wait until they're retired to do. It helps me do all of those things now while also supporting my team and helping all of us go deeper on things that will move the needle forward even more.
Oh, I love that. So when you put that content in, are you able to just take that content and then publish it? Or do you need to go in and like finesse or massage it at all?
Definitely finesse and massage it. You can train it to kind of write like you, which is one of the things that I've been working on with it on, especially Chat GPT. But it's something that you definitely need to tweak or edit or look through and really just use it as a starting point. At this point, maybe in the future that won't be the case, but at least at this point, using it as a starting place, a jumping off point, really kind of gets things moving. So if you've ever felt like that dread as you look at the blank screen and you're like, I don't even know where to start, this is the place to start with AI.
And so what are some of the different, you mentioned Chat GPT. What are some of the other AI that you're utilizing?
So I use Descript. So I upload my videos to Descript, and then I can remove all filler words like, etc. I can remove all of those immediately, like with one single click. And then from there, we upload into Hello Audio, we upload into Vimeo. So that's one that I use. I'm also starting to use in video. I forgot what it was called for a second. In video, and that lets me take text that I want to say. Let's say if you've ever seen those videos on like Instagram or Facebook where it has like a little story on it and has pictures or video in the background, you can do that within video, and it's really, really fast. You just put in the text, and then for every sentence that you have, it puts a different video or picture in the background that relates to that, which is, it's like text to video essentially. And so that's another one that I'm using a lot recently. ChatGPT is definitely the biggest one. I also use Midjourney a lot for images and image creation, so I can have something unique that doesn't, that I'm not necessarily hiring a graphic designer for all the time. Another one I'm using is 1 Hour, and it's basically you can create videos of AI created people saying whatever you want them to say. And so we're going to be using that for one of our brands that I don't necessarily want to be the face of. We want it to be more of a sellable brand, something that if we decide to sell one day, we can. And so we're going to be using AI powered people, so to speak, for that. So those are some of the biggest ones that I'm using right now. And I love it.
That is fascinating. I have not heard of most of those, so I'm excited to check some of them out. How are you learning how to use all these and like because there's got to be a learning curve.
Oh, yes, definitely a learning curve. And the really interesting thing is because it's so new, it's really hard to find online. So for example, the other day I was saying and I was asking how to do something on Synthesia, which is like a AI video person. And there was not really anything answering that question because they're all so new. And so a lot of it is me figuring it out on my own. Or I found every once in a while, I find some TikTok channels where I'm like, oh, this is a really helpful one. But for the most part, it's me figuring it out on my own and spending a lot of time doing that. But because I'm using AI, I have that extra time to spend on it and to go deep on it. And so instead of me needing to create the script for TikTok, create the blog post, create all these things, I can create outlines for them, and then I can have it create it and then have my team edit it. And then all I have to do really is show up and record and learn. And so I feel like I'm in a really unique position because I have a team that can help with some of these things. I'm leaning into AI to help with some of these things. And just by nature, I'm a learner and I'm a teacher. So not only am I soaking it up, but I'm also like, I have to tell you because it's so cool. And so I really like getting to do all that trial and error.
Oh my gosh, I love all that. And so then you also launched a membership recently where you are sharing all this information that you're learning. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So it's called AI Copy Club, and it's a membership. It's $9 a month, and I wanted to make it super super accessible and affordable because, like I said, I really do think this is going to shift everything for us. I know some people are saying it's a fad, it's a trend, but I really don't think so. And so especially for my time teaching before I left teaching, I was an educator, and I saw how people that had access to resources were able to often get a leg up and go ahead a little bit faster. And so for me, I was like, I want to create something that's super ultra affordable so that anybody can start to learn how to use this and start to apply it to their business or even create a new business utilizing what they're learning. And so it's every week we do about 3 or 4 videos that we upload showing you how to use a certain AI tool or how to tweak. I include prompts and examples in every one. That's actually one I've learned recently is what is it called? Scribe, and it basically records your screen and takes screenshots of you as you're going through and doing something, so you can create SOPs for your team so much easier. But I use that now, and so it basically creates the SOP for me. So you have the prompts, you have access to the prompts, you can see the examples, you can see how it all looks without you having to do all the trial and error that I'm doing.
That's fascinating. I've heard of Scribe before. That was mentioned in a group I'm in. And I remember making a note. I'm like, oh, that sounds fascinating. I need to check this out. And then life happened.
Right. Right.
But it's like, I love that as someone who is doing a lot of like tech VA virtual assistant work prior to what I'm doing now. I mean, that was huge. I was creating SOPs and like all that. So
saves so much time.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. What if someone is intrigued by our conversation here and they are like, what do I do to get started? Like, there's so many different programs. Like, which one is the one that you would say for someone just starting out that's, in online business, service provider, and they want to start playing around with this AI? Where would you suggest they go?
100%. I would start with ChatGPT. At least at this time, it's the best one that I found, and it's the most teachable one that I found. So in other words, you ask it to do something. Let's say it comes back with something that's not exactly where you want it to be. You can ask it to make a few adjustments and give it specifications, and most of the time, it will make those updates. And so you can get it really close to exactly what you want. So you have fewer edits to make. So I would start with ChatGPT. We've been hearing that there's going to be a paid version coming out soon, but that there will also still be a free version as well. And so for me personally, I will pay for the paid version when it comes out, simply because the amount that it's made me, just in the short period of time I've been using it, would exceed any amount that I can imagine that they would require me to pay. So for me, it's a no-brainer. But if you're just starting out, start with a free version, and it would be ChatGPT is 100% my recommendation to start with.
I love that. Yeah, that's what I've been using and playing around with the most. I have started putting actually the show notes from the podcast episodes. I run those through Otter AI to pull out the transcript, which I don't edit a whole lot. I just try to make sure everyone's name is spelled correctly. Other than that, I'm like, it's fine. But it was interesting because I was trying to find a way to like make me some show notes, summary type sort of bullet points about what the conversation was. And the transcript was too long. And then I learned actually from you because I'm part of your AI club, to chop it down into smaller.
Yeah. And it's like those little things that if you're not doing it all day, every day, you're like, oh, I guess I just can't do that. But the truth is, usually it just requires a little bit of tweaking. But did it save you some time?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't fully doing like a whole summary before. I was just giving a bio, and now I'm trying to go in and paste it. And it still takes a little bit of time to go in and then have it finesse a little bit. But I mean, it's quicker than me doing it.
Exactly.
So I offer a website audit assessment, and I had like a description that was kind of blah, and I put it in there and I told it to make it beachy. because
Oh,
that's very
fun.
on brand for me.
Mhm.
And it was the cutest little description that it came out with. I'm like, this is so fun. And it was right on brand. It's not necessarily maybe how I would have said things, but it made me smile. And so I was like, we'll put that up and see what happens.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love that you described it as beachy. That's so cute.
Beachy and breezy. Those are the words that I tell it to use often.
Oh, that's awesome. And I love that because it feels like it embodies something about your brand. And so I think it's important for people to hear that, and you don't necessarily have to say, I wanted to have more professionalism, or I wanted to sound more friendly. You can use those kind of words that you have in your branding, and it will still use that too. That's so cool.
Yeah, because that is something I feel like sometimes it puts out something that sounds way too corporate for me. And I'm like,
Right.
that is not what I'm going for. I need you to make this friendlier. I need to make it. And trying sometimes to find the words to ask it to,
Mhm.
I feel like can be a little challenging for me to like put the right input in to get the output that I'm looking for. Do you have any
Mhm.
suggestions on that for some of those words that maybe like, I know pirate is one that's kind of a funny one that I've heard people using.
Mhm.
Sassy or something I know I've used. Friendlier. Is there anything else that you find that you can kind of put in that makes it a little more sound human?
I have said, make it sound more like a human, add more personality, add more spunk. Those all seem to do pretty well for me. I was working with somebody last week at my retreat, actually, that is from New York. And so she said something like, make it sound more like a sassy New Yorker. And it really did. And so I think one thing that'll help is looking at your branding and looking at your brand messaging, your brand voice. And if you're like, I don't really know what it is, maybe you haven't done something like that, like an exercise like that, you can ask people in your audience that have been with you for a long time, how does this brand make you feel? What does this brand sound like to you? Ask them for some descriptive words. Those things can help you kind of pull it out. Sometimes you're a little bit too close to it to see yourself. And then the other thing you can do is say, here's who I am. Here's what my website is, or not necessarily what my website is, but like copy from your website. Here's what people say about my brand, and put that information into Chat GPT as well, and ask it to describe your brand to you. And that might give you some insight that is from more of a objective standpoint and not just like a you're in your head kind of standpoint.
Is there a specific way that you ask it for questions? Do you say like, are you real friendly and like, hey, can you please write something a little like I find sometimes I feel like I'm being a little curt. Like, do I need
Oh,
to
interesting.
or like what's the proper way to like ask for things? Like
Right.
it's not Google, it's not how do you do, but I mean I Googled or not Googled, I put in the other day how to do something because my husband was asking, I'm like, I want to see what Chat GPT
Mhm.
says about this. And I was kind of just laughing at the result. I mean, it
Mhm.
made sense. It was what I asked. It gave me the right
Mhm.
answer. I can't remember what the example was now,
Mhm.
unfortunately, but
Yeah, I always say, can you please X, Y, and Z? But it's not even on purpose. It's just like, I don't know. I guess I started treating it like I would actually treat somebody on my team. And so for somebody on my team, I'd say, ooh, I really like that you said this, but this time, can you add X, Y, and Z to it? Or can you change it a little bit so it feels more X, Y, and Z? And so it really does feel like a member of my team at this point.
yes. Okay. So I'm glad to know I'm not the only one using
No.
like please and thank you in my AI requests.
Right.
I felt a little silly. I'm like, am I being too polite here? Like
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I do it too. It feels weird to do it, but it also feels weird not to do it. So I was like, we're just gonna use please and thank you, I guess.
oh, that's fun. Can we go back a little bit? You had mentioned you're using it to source photos.
Yes.
I want to hear more about that, please.
Okay, so I use Midjourney, and Midjourney, you can go in, you say, all right, I wanted to create this particular image. So you do \imagine and then whatever you want it to look like. And what I think is really interesting about this is that sometimes it comes up with stuff that I didn't have in my head. And for my cover photos for Facebook, they're ridiculous, like ridiculous. I just do really silly ones, but the backgrounds I'm creating on Midjourney because I don't have, I love drawing, I love painting, but it's all very, very bad. I'm not good at painting or drawing. And so I've always been really frustrated that I can picture something in my head, but to be able to make it a reality, it just, I haven't been able to figure out how to do that. But with AI, I can use my words to create the kind of image that I want. And it feels almost like I'm stepping into a new world because for for the first time in my life, I can take what's in my head and get something similar to what I'm looking for. And so I might say something like, imagine a woman with a ponytail who's throwing her phone in the ocean, and maybe a crystal clear blue ocean with mountains in the background, something like that. And it's going to come up with something that has those components in it for the most part.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to create like social media graphics in the sense of like Instagram, kind of like something you'd create in Canva with like quotes on it and stuff like, can you create that sort of thing?
You can create like the image that would be the background image, and then I would upload it into Canva and then I'd edit and like add in words and text and stuff onto it from there. So what I found with Midjourney, at least at this point, is if I try to add copy into it, like text into it, it comes out looking really funky and like not actually like letters, almost like letters, but not quite. Like there's lines there, but it's not actually letters. And so it doesn't work for that. But if you create the background image, then you can upload it into Canva and use it from there.
Love that. Yeah. I want to play. You are giving me so many more things that I want to go around with now.
It's so fun. And then once you get in, it's like so addictive because there's just so many cool things that you can create. And when you see how much time it saves you, it's just, there's no going back. That's why I think it's here to stay.
Do you ever set a timer so you don't go down like an AI rabbit hole?
I used to, especially at the beginning, but now at this point, I hand off a lot of things because I will say, okay, we need a blog post on X, Y, and Z. And so I have team members that are either doing or going to be doing some of those things for me. And so for mine, it's mostly just for fun. And so I'll go in for a little bit and then I'll say, okay, Brittany, like you need to get back to it. And I can pretty much do that. But at the beginning, especially, I was like, nope, this is just what I want to do all day, every day. This is so much fun.
I find the thing that I'm wanting to use it the most for, because I struggle a lot with Instagram post captions. And I have a ton of past content created for that. And so I would love to find like, what would you say is the best way to like take a past caption that I used and have AI like Chat GPT massage it, change it around? What sort of, what things would you ask it to do?
So you can do one of two things. You could use Quillbot, which is basically you upload and then you can have it rephrased. So that's kind of cool. So Quillbot, I think it's quillbot.ai is the one for that. And that one, I believe there's a free version and a premium version. I've been using the free version. That's been great. And then ChatGPT also, you could put it, copy and paste it into there and then say something along the lines of, I want you to rewrite this caption. This time I want you to make it and then put in what you want it to have that it didn't have already. You could say, I want you to make it a little bit shorter. I want you to make it sound friendlier. I want you to make it have a little bit more personality, and focus on inviting the person to my offer, whatever your offer is, or focus on getting the person to sign up for my email list. So they can, and then how it's going to benefit them. So the more details you can give it, usually the better. But that's what I would do with that.
I love saying, give it more personality. I don't know that I've used that yet. And that definitely, I think, will help because again, I've gotten a lot of robot corporate sound things out.
Right.
And I'm like, how do I massage this a little bit different? Or how do I ask the robot to make it sound more like me?
Right. Yep. The other thing I found that works really well is when I will, so I'll take like an email or a social post that I've written that I really, really, really like. And I'll say, I want to train you to write like me, review the email or post or whatever it is below and describe the tone and voice of that email or post. Describe what you're noticing. If you do like a few of them, you can say, describe what patterns you see between these two images or not images, text or blog posts or whatever it is. And then it'll describe it for you. So that way, when you're asking it to create something for you, you can use the same language it's using. So for me, I put an email in that I really liked and I said, can you describe this to me? And it was like, all right, well, this email is friendly, it's empathetic, it's authentic, it's relatable, and a few other words I can't remember off the top of my head. And so then next time I have it write an email, I say, I want you to write an email that is, and then I use those describing words.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's great. Yeah. I can think like, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking of like a couple of emails that I've gotten responses from where people are like, this was amazing. I loved this. and I could go take those. So it will remember, and this is Chat GPT. It will remember going forward.
I've heard multiple things. I've heard from some people it does, some people it doesn't. What I've noticed from my own experience is that it seems to, but I'm not sure if it's just because I'm using the same stuff again and again and again. If it's in the same chat, at least for me, it seems to. If it's in a different chat, it doesn't always seem to. But what I'd recommend, so that even if it does or doesn't, is having a Google Doc of the prompts that you've used that have really worked for you, the prompts that you've used that have gotten you the exact results that you want. And then that way, if you ever get stuck or if it's not giving you what you want, you can say, okay, forget everything I said. Now I want you to, and then give an example or give it a prompt similar to what you've used before that worked.
Do you find, because like in Chat GPT, for our listeners, if they haven't used it yet, I mean, you can open up multiple new chats and they save them now over on the left-hand side. They went away for a little bit, but then they came back. It was scary. I was like, so I guess my first question would be, do you take those final chats out and save them somewhere like in Google Docs?
Yep, absolutely. Because for me, I actually lost mine. So when it went from Chat GPT 3.0 to 3.5, we lost some of those, or I lost some of those anyway. And I don't want that to happen again. So I always copy and paste before I leave.
Okay. I might have lost mine. I was playing around so much. Yeah. I don't know how much of it was really that good. It was just a lot of play. Are you opening like a new chat when you have a new request, or do you have one chat ask for something, then keep, because it's like, oh, you have my tone. Let me give you now another social post that I want you to maybe move around or massage or anything like that?
I try to do all social, like if I'm doing a line of social posts and they're all for me, they're not for a client, I try to keep all that in one chat so I don't have to keep like retraining it essentially. Same thing with emails. As long as it's my voice, I don't mind keeping it there. The other time I would change it is if it's something where I really want to make sure I can find it easily. So if I'm doing like launch emails, for example, I don't really want to keep that in the same chat as like social posts for like our just everyday social posts. Because it'd make it harder for me to find later on. So I wanted to make it easy as possible so that if I ever lose that document, forget what I called it, something like that, which shouldn't happen because I have naming conventions, but just in case, I like having them where it's easy for me to find.
Can we talk a little bit about your organizing all of these things? Because there's a lot of information it can spit out. And I know I personally struggle with sometimes like, how do I organize all this information that's coming at me? And like, this was a great idea. I want to save, put a pin in that and save that for later.
So what I do with anything that I ask it to do is I have different folders. So in my Google Drive, I have like my product folders. So then inside that product folder, I have each product that we have. So like AI Copy Club has its own folder. Evergreen Everything, our mastermind, has its own folder. And so anything that I'm creating for those, whether it's launch emails, social posts, whatever, I put them in that folder. So I know my Google Doc with the information about that will be in that folder. And then I also keep everything in a spreadsheet with the link to that folder as well, just so it's super easy, not just for me to find, but anybody on my team as well. Because ideally, I don't want to be the only person that's doing this. I want to be able to hand things off so that I get to really focus on what I'm great at and what I enjoy the most, and empower my team to do the same.
Awesome. So can we talk a little bit about, I kind of want to do a bridge over here of like how you're using AI with the rest of your business, with your Evergreen Everything and all that, how you're combining those two, because AI is not the thing you're known for.
Right. Yeah. So I'm known as the Queen of Evergreen. And so when I first started, I knew that I was going to start with Evergreen emails, which basically are emails that you create once and then automate. So like abandoned cart emails, we specialize in this year-long nurture and sell sequence that we do. Basically anything that's a sequence, that's what we call Evergreen emails. But I knew that ultimately that wasn't all that I wanted to do, because for me, I love emails. I love talking about emails, but at the end of the day, it's not about emails for me. It's about what I'm able to create with those, what I've seen my clients be able to create. It's about knowing that if my client has some kind of life-altering moment, it's whether it's a divorce or something with business or mental health or whatever it is, they can step away from their company for, a year if they need to and still have sales coming in. And that for me, that starts with evergreen emails. But then there's other things that we can evergreen too, like other forms of traffic that we can evergreen. And so when I look at how do I want to show up in the world, how do I want to most help people, it's really taking that holistic view of it and not just, emails. Emails are a great stepping stone. It's a great starting place, but there's definitely more to it. And that's really where Evergreen Everything was born, which is our mastermind. We have a retreat with it. But it's like this customized way to show people, here's how to use AI in your business. Here's how to utilize your team in your business. Here's how to utilize everything you can possibly evergreen, email, social, other traffic sources, like everything you can evergreen. We'll show you how to do it and give you a month-to-month breakdown so that you're not floundering. You're not thinking like, okay, I have a million things to do. You know exactly what to do. And it all started though from that desire to be able to step away from my business when I need to, or when I want to, or to even just, dive into those multi-passionate efforts that I really, there's a lot of things that I want to do and experience and just live life to the fullest. And that's what that looks like to me.
Oh, I love that so much. I am such a fan of evergreen emails. I love setting up that's something I do for clients is because we do the website, we do the tech integration, and then oftentimes they come back, they're like, okay, now I'm ready to like scale to the next step. I'm like, okay, next step is we're going to go get your evergreen funnel set up and set up your nurture sequences. And that is something I'm such a huge proponent of, because once you get that set up, then you can really, that to me is such a foundational piece.
Yeah.
Because then you can really go and just focus on getting people to the front end of your business, getting traffic, going and being visible, getting on podcasts, doing webinars, all those things. And that once people get on your list, you are going to be providing them with value, with training, with support, and making offers.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. It makes such a big difference because instead of thinking, okay, now I have to market. Okay, now I have to fulfill. Okay, now I have to make sales. Okay, now I have to get more visible and do all these different things. It's like, okay, you can take evergreen email, or you can, get your emails done and have that sell for you, have that nurture for you. Same with social. You can be visible on evergreen. And when you have those systems in place, it just gives you a lot more peace of mind that you don't have to always be working, that you can spend more time with your family. It's a lot to be, especially for solopreneurs that, have families or have people that they're taking care of, not necessarily, kids, but even their parents and stuff like that, or friends or whoever it is. When you're trying to take care of someone or go through a crisis or whatever it is, and that you have a way to bring in sales, even if you're not going through a crisis, you're just living life. It's a lot to do in a business, especially if you're a solopreneur or you have a really small team. And so to be able to call in AI, to call in your evergreen emails, your evergreen social, makes such a big difference.
Yeah, I love that so much. That is something that I am continuously striving to implement more of in my business. I've been working on my evergreen nurture sequence for a number of years. It's taking me a while, but it's getting there.
It's getting there. And that's the thing. Even if you only have one more email this month than you did before, that's still one more email. That's a big deal.
When people are first starting out and they're not starting to build a list, which I think a lot of us are guilty of doing. I didn't start a list until just a couple of years ago. And if I could go back, I would change that. And I would grow a list. And I think that's one of the things that's still not talked about as much as it should be.
Totally agree. I mean, everybody that I know always says, I wish I had started my list earlier. I wish I had started my list earlier. Because think about it. If you started 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you'd likely be around 10,000 people at this point. Even if you're not 10,000, let's say you're at 5,000, that's 5,000 people that want to hear from you, that you can help, that you can make offers to. Even just from a statistical standpoint, that's significant.
Yeah, absolutely. I also find that people will talk about grow your list, grow your list, grow your list. And the missing piece is people aren't talking about, which you are, but a lot of people are not talking about what to do after you've built that list. Now, what do I do? Okay, now I have this list, but I don't ever communicate with them. I don't send them emails. I haven't talked to them in 2 years. Do you have any advice for people who are sitting here listening to this right now and they're like, oh, yep, raising my hand, that's me.
Yep. So I think the biggest thing is, well, first, I guess I'd say you're definitely wasting your money if you're running ads, or wasting your time if you're spending all this time on social to get people on your list, but then not doing anything with it. So that's the first thing, is that to maximize your time and your effort, it's vital to start sending emails to your list. The other thing is, a lot of times when people say, well, I haven't sent an email to my list in a long time, it's often because they don't know what to say, or they sit down to say something and nothing comes out, or they write something. They are like, oh my gosh, what if I'm embarrassed by this? What if somebody replies and they don't like it? What if all these what ifs, but I have only had, in the entire time I've been sending emails to people, and I have sent a lot of emails the entire time. I think I've only had one person reply to me that was like a rude response. And I responded to them in kindness, and we actually became friends. And so it's one of those things that it's like this big monster that we have in our head of what could be, or the things that could go wrong, is almost never as bad as we think. And so that's, I guess, the other thing. And then the one last thing I tell them is to start today. It doesn't matter if you haven't emailed your list in 2 years. Today is the day to start. And if it was me and I'm stuck, I would use ChatGPT, and I would say something like, I want you to act as a business strategist who's also an email marketer, and write an email about, you could even just write an email about what's going on, why you haven't emailed in a while, but say something along the lines of, I bet you might be wondering where I've been. It's because I've been working on, and then share something you've been working on that you're excited about and how it's going to impact the reader. How is it going to help the reader because you've been gone working on this thing? So sharing something like that, or asking ChatGPT to write an email, giving a helpful resource or helpful tips or something like that. But whatever it is, send something out today. You will have some unsubscribes. That is normal. So if you get it and you get some unsubscribes, don't think I'm never doing this again. It's okay to have unsubscribes. And it's normal, especially if you haven't emailed your list in a while, but it's better to email them and have unsubscribes than never to email them at all.
Absolutely. I've gotten better about emailing my list because I was that person for a very long time. And then in the past couple of years, I've tried to get so much more consistent in emailing my list. And right now I have like 1 month of a nurture sequence. So people who get on my list hear from me right away, and they hear from me quite frequently, which helps also like the people who are like, I don't want to hear from you, and they don't resonate with me, which is totally okay. I want to talk to people who want to hear from me. But it gets them out of my list early on, which I really enjoy. And so that makes me feel like I have a really strong list of people who want to hear from me and who enjoy my emails. I sent out one email a while back, and I got just the kindest reply from a woman. And I have no idea who she is and where she came from I can see what she opted into and when, but I don't know her. And she came back and was like, I love your emails. They just always resonate so much with me, and this provided so much value. Thank you. And that just warmed my heart. And I was like, I touched someone's life today. And that just really, it feels good.
I think a lot of us make a bigger difference than we think when we're emailing consistently and sharing, who we are and what we do and how we help and stuff like that. And we have another brand that my husband runs now, but we started, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, and we still get emails back from people that are going through the Evergreen sequence, thanking us or saying, this is exactly what I need to hear right now, or I'm so glad I'm not alone. And so something we created 4 or 5 years ago is still impacting people today. And that's one of the reasons I love Evergreen emails.
I love that so much. Brittany, I could talk to you all day. I have had so much fun, and I can't wait. We're actually going to meet in person, I'm pretty sure, in April at Renee Rebar. She was also on the podcast in one of the earlier episodes. We're going to meet at her live event. So I'm excited about that.
Me too.
I do have a question that I ask everyone who comes on the show. I know we didn't go through, for our listeners, my normal questions today because I really wanted to dive into a lot of AI stuff. But I would love to know, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone when they're first starting out that would help them be bolder, be louder, and make waves in their business?
I think the thing that helped me do that was to realize that we have a very short time, really, on earth comparatively. And we have a really beautiful opportunity to make it the best experience for us and for others around us as possible. And I heard this on, I think it was an Instagram reel or something, but basically the idea was like, at some point or another, everybody's going to pass. So why not just go for it? The people that were worried about, teasing us or making fun of us, we're not going to be around forever. They're not going to be around forever. So why not make the biggest impact that you can now while you're still here, that resonates with your community, your family, and through that ripples on multiple generations.
Oh, I love that so much. Brittany, where can everyone find you, hang out with you, if they want to find out more about AI and come learn from you? Where are you? Where do you hang out?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. It's the Queen of Evergreen. That the is at the beginning. On Facebook, it's under Brittany Long. YouTube, Brittany Long. We have the Friday Off Club Facebook group as well. Pretty much anywhere there is a social channel, you can find me either under Brittany Long or the Queen of Evergreen. And I would just be thrilled to connect with you.
Wonderful. I will link all that up in the show notes. Thank you again so much for coming on the show today. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out the show notes at lauracomark.com/podcast. And if you're ready to turn your website into a marketing machine, get more sales, save time, and simplify the back end of your business, grab my free resource, Power Integrations for your website. Head on over to lauracomark.com/power. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye now.